Salvete, welcome to Beginner's Latin Lesson 8. In this lesson we'll look at complementary infinitives and object infinitives. You can think of these two terms as referring to different roles an infinitive can play in a sentence. In Lesson 6, we looked at how the verbs vuolo, nolo and malo can be used in conjunction with an infinitive to complete their meaning. For example, ambulare volumus, we wish to walk. We will continue to expand on this idea in this lesson, but first let's refresh our understanding of infinitives. Here are all the infinitives we've covered in the past 7 lessons. In blue we have the first conjugation infinitives, ambulare, amare, iuare, laudare, and navigare. In green are the second conjugation infinitives. The irregular verbs are in black, and dare, which behaves similarly to a first conjugation verb in the present tense, but is irregular in its other forms, is in sky blue. So let's begin with a definition of the infinitive. An infinitive is defined as an abstract verbal noun in the neuter singular. This is a bit of a mouthful, but all it means is that an infinitive is a word which names an action. It is neuter, Latin's third gender, which is neither masculine nor feminine. An example of a few neuter nouns which we've come across already would be periculum or oppidum. It is also indeclinable, meaning unlike other nouns we have come across, like insula, pharma, vir, it does not inflect or change its form depending on its use. That is to say, it has no accusative, genitive, or dative forms. This means two things. First of all, infinitives have a limited number of functions. Also, we cannot tell the syntactic function of an infinitive simply by looking at its ending, like we can for other nouns. So we're going to have to learn to spot these different uses. That's what this lesson is about. Abstract means that an infinitive is a noun which describes an intangible object or idea. Kindness, youth, anger, and jealousy are all examples of abstract nouns in English. Although an infinitive doesn't decline, it can take on two characteristics of a verb, and these are tense and voice. So we have passive and active voice infinitives. In English, an example of a passive infinitive would be to be seen, its active equivalent being to see. We can also have past, present, and future infinitives. For example, to have read is a past infinitive. To read is a present tense infinitive, and to be going to read or to be about to read is a future infinitive. All Latin examples that we have studied so far and that we're about to see are present tense active infinitives. Now let's look at some functions of the infinitive in Latin. Here are 2 Latin sentences. 1. Poeta tos libros habet. 2. Poeta filis libros dare debet. Deciphering these sentences may at first appear quite daunting, as they both contain vocabulary that we have not previously encountered. Let's first identify the verbs in these sentences. See if you can highlight the finite verbs, those which have been conjugated in the present tense and have a number and subject in each sentence, and also any infinitives. How did you do? We have the verb habet in the first sentence, meaning he has or she has. In the second sentence, we have debet, which means in this instance, the poet ought to do something or the poet should do something. The infinitive dare precedes debet, so what the poet ought to do is to give or gift something to someone. Now that we have the main structure of both sentences figured out, see if you can pause this video and translate both sentences 1 and 2. For the first sentence, we have The poet has many books. The second sentence translates as the poet ought to give the books to the children. What role does the infinitive dare play in the second sentence? Does the sentence make sense without the infinitive? No, it doesn't. The infinitive completes the meaning of the verb debet. We call an infinitive that works in this way a complementary infinitive. Here are two more sentences. 3. Femina filios suos ambulare ad forum iubet. 4. Poeta in foro est, poeta filios feminae manet. Maneo is another second conjugation verb meaning to stay, remain, or wait for, as we have a direct object, filios, the children in this case. Manet is transitive and means waits for. See if you can highlight all verbs and mark any infinitives in sentences 3 and 4. We have 3 finite verbs, iubet in sentence 3 and est and manet in sentence 4. We also have the infinitive ambulare. Here are 2 hints to help you translate these sentences. In the first sentence, the word suos is a possessive adjective, which can mean his, hers, its, or theirs, depending on whose ownership to which it refers. In this sentence, it refers to the children of the women. Bear this in mind, it should make it much easier to work out the case of feminae in sentence 4. Pause this video and see how you get on. How did you do? For sentence 3, we have the woman orders her children to walk to the forum. For sentence 4, we have the poet is in the forum. The poet is waiting for the children of the woman. Let's look at sentence 3 more closely. We have an infinitive in this sentence, just as we did in sentence 2. However, the role of this infinitive is slightly different. We know that femina, the woman, is a subject of the verb iubet. She is the person ordering. She is ordering her children to walk. Her children are the object of the verb iubet, and so is the verb ambulare. Her children are being ordered to walk. The subject of ambulare is filios suos, so we can think of filios suos ambulare as one large object block. Ambulare is the object of the verb iubet and also completes the meaning of the verb iubet. It is what we call an object infinitive. We can think of the object infinitive as a specific case of the complementary infinitive. A complementary infinitive is one which completes the meaning of the finite verb to which it is linked. An object infinitive is one which both completes the meaning of another verb and is also the direct object of the same verb. It's okay if this all seems a bit puzzling right now. I will discuss further differences between these 2 cases and talk about how we can tell apart complementary and object infinitives. First, complementary infinitives. We have already discussed the function of a complementary infinitive. Typically, the verbs possum and debeo will take a complementary infinitive. Another Latin verb which is used with a complementary infinitive is audeo, I dare. If you're not sure if you've spotted a complementary infinitive, try taking the word out of the sentence. Does it still make sense? If the sentence no longer makes sense without the infinitive, as in this case, ad oppidum ambulare possumus, we are able to walk to the town, chances are it's a complementary infinitive, but not an object infinitive. The object infinitive is an infinitive which is the direct object of a finite verb. In this example, rex ad insulam nautas navigare iubet. the king orders the sailors to navigate to the island. The verb navigare both completes the meaning of the verb ubet and also acts as the direct object of ubet. If we omit navigare, we get the king orders the sailors to the island, a sentence we can still understand. In English, a sentence which contains an object infinitive can also be translated as two clauses linked using the connective that. A clause is simply put a sequence of words which contains a subject and a finite verb. So for this example, we could have the king orders that the sailors navigate to the island. The first clause is the king orders, the second being the sailors navigate to the island. This is a useful trick for determining if an infinitive is acting as an object. This splitting is also possible in cases where the subject of the finite verb is also the subject of the object infinitive. Let's now look at two example sentences which contain infinitives. Are the following complementary infinitives also object infinitives? Reginae gladius monstrare potestis. You are able to show the swords to the queen. Gladius is an accusative plural, reginae is a dative singular. Is monstrare an object infinitive? Monstrare is not an object infinitive. The subject of the infinitive is the same as the subject of potestis, and we cannot use the connective that to split the sentence into two parts or clauses. If we take away the infinitive, the sentence completely falls apart. It no longer makes sense. Here is another example. Puellae in agris ambulare optant. The girls wish to walk in the fields. Is ambulare an object infinitive? Yes, it is. We can use the connective that to create two clauses, one with the subject the girls and the other with the subject they, which refers to the girls. And this has the same meaning as the first translation. In this lesson, we have revised verbs we have previously encountered. I have also introduced some new verbs in this lesson. The most important takeaway from this lesson is the difference between complementary and object infinitives. Understand that object infinitives are a variety of complementary infinitives, so all object infinitives are complementary infinitives, but not all complementary infinitives are object infinitives. Thank you for watching.